Welcome, dear subscribers and curious listeners of my channel. Welcome to the 7th episode of Harry Potter Secrets. For those who are new to our channel or have forgotten what it's all about, let me briefly explain. In Harry Potter Secrets, I share interesting facts from the books that are not featured in the films but do not contradict the storyline. Enjoy watching. Number 1. A Rat's Deed. In the movie Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, we are told that the death of Harry's parents was caused by their old friend Sirius Black, who had just escaped from prison. We believe this until the very end, when it unexpectedly turns out that the real traitor was Peter Pettigrew. But what role did he play in the death of Lily and James? Why was he trusted with such important information, and why couldn't Sirius prove his innocence? The answers can be found in the books. When Snape revealed Voldemort's plan to kill baby Harry to Dumbledore and asked him to hide Lily and her family, Albus cast the powerful Fidelius charm to conceal the location of the Potter's house. The charm was such that only one person, the secret keeper, could reveal the location, and neither torture nor magic could extract this information. Initially, Sirius was supposed to be the secret keeper, but at the last moment he persuaded James and Lily to choose Peter instead. Why? So that Voldemort and his Death Eaters would believe the secret was entrusted to Sirius, while in reality they would hunt him, and Peter would remain safe. However, as it turned out, Pettigrew had been serving Voldemort for a long time, and he immediately revealed the trusted secret to his master. So, one wrong decision led to tragedy. Number 2. Without the Time Turner. Hermione's thirst for knowledge was so great that by the 3rd year she decided to attend every lecture, even Muggle Studies, where she would essentially learn nothing. To help her, McGonagall obtained the Time Turner for her. This allowed Hermione to attend multiple classes at once, but what happened when she was without this magical artifact? Hermione decided to drop divination and Muggle studies. This allowed her to return to a normal rhythm and, as always, remain the top student. "I decided to drop Muggle studies," she said, "and with that Time Turner, I almost went mad." Number 3. The Conductor's Secret. In Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Stan Shunpike, the conductor of the night bus, is the one who tells Harry about Sirius Black. But what happened to him afterward? In the book Half-Blood Prince, Stan is arrested on suspicion of being connected to the Death Eaters. His arrest is based on rumours that he discussed the Death Eaters' plans in a tavern. Despite the lack of evidence, he is sent to Azkaban, and although Harry and Ron don't believe in his guilt, Stan ends up being one of the escaped prisoners from Azkaban in Deathly Hallows. He later appears on the side of the Death Eaters, but Harry believes that he might have been forced to support them under the Imperious Curse. Number 4. The Fate of Buckbeak. Buckbeak, who escaped with Sirius in Prisoner of Azkaban, was also forgotten in the films. However, in the books, his fate was revealed. After Sirius's death, the Hippogriff was passed to Harry, and later returned to Hagrid. Even though Buckbeak helped in the Battle of Hogwarts, his fate would have been even more notable if he had appeared in the films. Number 5. Limitations for wizards. Despite all their magical abilities, wizards are not all-powerful. For instance, many injuries caused by curses cannot be healed. There are examples like George, who lost his ear, or Lockhart, whose memory could not be restored. Hermione also mentions 5 principal exceptions to the law of elementary transfiguration by Gaup. One of them is that wizards cannot create food from nothing. While this doesn't paint the full picture, fans still discuss these limitations, coming up with various theories. Number 6. Shadows of the Magical World. In the world of Harry Potter, magic is often portrayed as an awe-inspiring, limitless force. Wizards cast spells with ease, shaping their surroundings with their power. But beneath the grandeur of magic lies a darker, more complex reality. In the books, we learn that magic can leave lasting scars, shadows that no spell can remove. These traces of magic are often more dangerous than the spells themselves. For example, the scar on Harry's forehead, left by Voldemort's killing curse, is not just a physical mark, it is a magical residue that ties Harry to the Dark Lord, a constant reminder of their connection. In the films, this detail is glossed over, but in the books, it plays a significant role in Harry's emotional and psychological journey. The scar isn't merely a painful reminder of the past, it is a beacon for Voldemort's influence. Throughout the series, Harry feels its effects even when the Dark Lord is far away. In Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Harry says, "Every time he gets closer, I feel it. My mark burns." This is no ordinary scar, it is a direct link to Voldemort, allowing the Dark Lord to exert mental pressure on Harry, influencing his thoughts and emotions. Despite all the magic at Harry's disposal, no spell can rid him of this burden. It is a constant, nagging presence, a dark shadow that follows him wherever he goes. The scar becomes a symbol of the lingering effects of dark magic, how it leaves an indelible mark on the soul, one that even the most powerful wizard cannot escape. Number 7. The mystery of the magical maps. The Marauder's Map is one of the most intriguing magical objects in the Harry Potter world, allowing its users to track the location of anyone within Hogwarts. But the map's true power extends beyond mere tracking. It can also reveal secret passages and hidden locations. In Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry, Ron, and Hermione use the map to navigate the castle, and it becomes an essential tool for their adventures. "I solemnly swear that I am up to no good," Harry says, activating the map. The magic of the map seems limitless, but in reality, it has significant limitations that are often overlooked. Despite its ability to track movement within Hogwarts, the map cannot detect magical barriers or protections placed on certain areas. This flaw becomes apparent when Harry and his friends attempt to find a secret room at the Ministry of Magic in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Despite the map's detailed layout of the building, they cannot locate the room they need. Hermione, ever the voice of reason, points out the map's shortcomings. Not every spellcaster can sense magic around them, especially if it's hidden from view. This moment highlights the map's limitations. While it can reveal the physical movement of people, it cannot detect powerful protective charms that shield areas from view. The Ministry of Magic, for example, is filled with enchanted rooms and barriers that are invisible to the map, preventing it from being a foolproof tool for discovery. It's a subtle but important reminder that even the most powerful magical tools have their vulnerabilities, and the magic that surrounds places like the Ministry or Hogwarts is more complex than even the Marauder's Map can fathom. Number 8. The Legend of the Swords of Gryffindor. The Sword of Gryffindor is a powerful symbol, and in the films it appears just when it is needed most. Yet the books delve much deeper into its history. It is not just a magical weapon, but a living relic, infused with the power of bravery and courage. Each time the sword is wielded by someone worthy, it grows stronger, more potent. In Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Harry draws the sword from the sorting hat during his battle with the basilisk, and it glows with a power that reflects his valor. Dumbledore later explains to Harry, the sword will be strengthened only when it is worthy. This is not just a weapon, it is a test, a reflection of the heart of its bearer. The sword's history ties it to a much older and more mysterious magical system, one connected to ancient relics with the potential to reshape the course of history. These relics were not just objects of power, they were woven into the very fabric of the wizarding world. The Sword of Gryffindor is a part of this legacy. In Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Harry learns of its deeper significance when Dumbledore reveals that the sword is more than just a tool for battle. It is a key, a part of a greater magic that has been passed down through generations of Gryffindors. The films fail to capture the sword's full meaning, but in the books it represents not just courage, but the endurance of hope in the face of darkness. Number 9. Forgotten characters. In the Harry Potter books, some characters play pivotal roles that are largely overlooked in the films. Take Professor Quirrell, for example. In the movie, he's shown simply as a bumbling villain, a pawn for Voldemort. But in the books, Quirrell's character is far more tragic. He wasn't just a weakling under Voldemort's control. He possessed his own unique magical abilities, which made his eventual downfall all the more devastating. Quirrell had a deep understanding of dark magic, and his struggle against Voldemort's possession was more than just an act of fear. It was a desperate, internal battle. Quirrell had been trying to resist Voldemort's influence, Harry realizes, as he watches the professor's final, tragic moments. This complexity is lost in the films, where Quirrell's story is condensed into a simple, evil puppet. Similarly, the character of Argus Filch, the Hogwarts caretaker, is reduced to little more than a grumpy old man in the films. Yet in the books there is much more to his story. Filch's loneliness and painful past are key elements of his character. He is not just a bitter man who hates students, but someone who once longed for magic, a longing that was cruelly unfulfilled. In Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, Filch's regret is palpable when he reveals that he is a squib, someone born into a magical family but lacking magical abilities. "I should have been able to do it," he mutters, revealing his deep bitterness. The films only hint at his inner turmoil, missing the deeper emotional layers that make him more than just the unpleasant caretaker of Hogwarts. Both of these characters were given a richness in the books that the films, for the sake of pacing, chose to omit. Their backstories aren't just filler. They add depth and nuance to the larger story. Quirrell's internal battle with Voldemort and Filch's unfulfilled longing for magic give readers a better understanding of how even the most seemingly insignificant characters are shaped by their pasts. These details, though small, paint a fuller picture of the world J.K. Rowling created, one where even the characters on the periphery have stories worth telling. Number 10. Lessons in Dark Magic. Dark magic is an ever-present force in the world of Harry Potter, but the depths of its influence are often left unexplored in the films. In the books, dark magic isn't just about the killing curse, Avada Kedavra. It's about manipulation, control, and the ability to alter reality itself. Hogwarts, for all its grandeur, hides its own dark secret. Though the school forbids any teaching of the dark arts, there are whispers of private lessons for those daring enough to seek them. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, we see Professor Slughorn invite the students to a more personal lesson, though it remains within the bounds of the law. But what about the lessons that lie outside those boundaries? One such lesson is the control over the mind. In Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, we are introduced to the sinister concept of the Imperious Curse, which forces its victim to do the caster's bidding without resistance. "You will obey me, Potter?" Crouch's voice commanded, showing how dark magic can strip away one's free will. The curse is terrifying in its simplicity, to control another person's thoughts and actions. The magic behind it is a tool of tyranny, and while the films focus on its immediate consequences, the books highlight its dangerous potential for abuse. But dark magic isn't only about manipulating minds. In Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Voldemort's mastery over dark creatures like the Inferi reveals the more grotesque side of dark spells. The Inferi, dead bodies controlled by dark magic, are used to haunt and terrorize. They're not alive, they're controlled, Harry realized as the horrors of the Inferius-filled cave unfolded before him. The ability to create and control life is a terrifying concept, and the book delves deeply into it, showing how dark wizards can use magic not just for power, but for torment. Dark magic also weaves its way into the very fabric of time itself. In Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, the idea of time travel is explored through Hermione's use of the Time Turner. Though not explicitly dark magic, the concept hints at how powerful wizards might alter time to suit their desires. While the films show this as a tool for academic convenience, the books emphasize the danger inherent in manipulating time. The notion that magic can stretch, twist, and bend the very laws of nature underlines the peril that comes with seeking too much power. Each spell, each incantation, carries with it the potential to not only reshape the present, but to unravel the very fabric of existence. Number 11. The Malfoy Curse. The Malfoy family's unwavering allegiance to Voldemort is often seen as a given in the films, but the books reveal a more complex and tragic tale. Lucius Malfoy, the head of the family, was a devoted follower of the Dark Lord for years. However, his loyalty was never as unshakable as that of other Death Eaters. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Lucius is no longer the proud supporter of Voldemort. Instead, he is a man filled with fear and regret. His thoughts constantly turn to his son Draco, whose life has been placed in the hands of the Dark Lord. In a conversation with Narcissa, Lucius admits his terror. "I've done terrible things, and I fear the price I will have to pay." Lucius' internal conflict intensifies as Voldemort's demands grow more dire. The moment when Draco is tasked with assassinating Dumbledore becomes the breaking point. Lucius knows that the task will either break his son or condemn him to an irreversible path of darkness. Lucius, once a proud man, begins to question the cost of his loyalty. "I cannot protect my son," he mutters to Narcissa, his voice tinged with despair. This admission of failure is a painful turning point in Lucius's character arc. He is trapped in the web of his past decisions, unable to escape the consequences of aligning with a power as destructive as Voldemort. Lucius' feelings of helplessness are evident when he realizes that he cannot save Draco from the curse of being a Death Eater. As Voldemort's grip tightens, Lucius becomes increasingly desperate to distance himself from the dark path he helped pave. He wants to break free, to rid himself of the burden of being a servant to the Dark Lord, but fear holds him back. In The Half-Blood Prince, when Lucius tries to resist Voldemort's influence, Narcissa reminds him of their dangerous position. "You should have never crossed him," she warns, highlighting how far they have fallen into Voldemort's web. Lucius's regret is palpable, but it is too late to turn back. The Malfoys are haunted by their choices, trapped in a legacy they cannot escape. Lucius may have once been a powerful figure, but now he is a broken man, burdened by guilt and fear for his family's safety. As the series progresses, it becomes clear that the Malfoys' allegiance to Voldemort was not born out of unwavering belief in his cause, but out of fear and a desire for power. This fear weighs heavily on Lucius, and it's only in the final moments of the battle that he begins to see the true cost of his family's involvement in the dark forces. His journey from prideful supporter to regretful father is a reminder that the darkest choices come with the heaviest of prices. Number 12. Harry's friends, not just wizards. Harry, Hermione, and Ron were more than just friends. They were symbols of ideals that shaped their world. While the films often show them as a trio of close companions, the books reveal how their relationships are rooted in deeper struggles. Hermione, as the daughter of Muggles, constantly faces the pressure of belonging to both worlds. In the magical community, she is often looked down upon as mudblood, a derogatory term that emphasizes her non-pureblood status. Yet her intelligence and determination allow her to rise above this prejudice. In Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, when Draco Malfoy insults her with the word mudblood, Hermione's reaction is one of pain but also quiet defiance. "I'm a mudblood and proud of it," she says, showing her inner strength despite the society that seeks to diminish her. Ron, on the other hand, feels like he's always in the shadow of his famous friend Harry. While he supports Harry with unwavering loyalty, he often struggles with feelings of inadequacy. His family, though warm and loving, is not wealthy, and this creates a sense of shame in Ron, especially when compared to the likes of Draco Malfoy. One of the most telling moments comes in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, when Ron finally admits, "I don't want to be the sidekick anymore." His insecurities come to the surface as he battles not only external challenges but also his own self-doubt. Ron's growth is gradual, from doubting his worth to finding his place in the fight. Against darkness. Their struggles highlight how bravery is not just a product of magical skill, but of emotional strength. In the final book, when Harry faces the ultimate test, it is not his magic that allows him to succeed, but the unwavering support of his friends. Ron and Hermione are by his side in the Battle of Hogwarts, and their courage is not in spells or potions, but in their willingness to face death together. It's in these moments that their friendship transcends the role of mere companions. They become symbols of the resilience of the human spirit. It's easy to overlook these subtler aspects of their bond in the films, where their personalities are often simplified to fit the pace of the plot. But in the books they are real people, flawed and complex. Hermione's determination to prove herself, Ron's battle with self-worth, and Harry's quest for belonging form the foundation of their strength. Together they remind us that true heroism is not defined by the power to cast spells, but by the strength to remain true to oneself and to each other, no matter the odds. Number 13, The Mystery of the Dying Tom. In the second book of the Harry Potter series, The Chamber of Secrets, readers are introduced to Tom Riddle, the young version of Lord Voldemort. Though initially only a shadow of the dark wizard he will become, Riddle's character carries a powerful presence, even in his youthful years at Hogwarts. His face is charming and his demeanor is smooth, yet there is something undeniably cold about him. The film adaptation, while providing a glimpse into Riddle's early life, does not delve deeply enough into the layers of tragedy and darkness that form the heart of his transformation. This is a journey that J.K. Rowling explores in depth within the pages of her books, and it is one that is critical to understanding the man who would become Voldemort. Tom Riddle was not born evil. He was a boy, abandoned by his mother, living in a Muggle orphanage and devoid of any kind of familial love. The lack of care and affection would not be unusual for many children, but in Tom's case, it was coupled with an extraordinary capacity for magic. From a very young age, he was aware of his power and could use it to manipulate those around him. His ability to influence others was frighteningly strong, but his lack of compassion was what set him apart. The orphanage where he grew up was filled with neglect, and Tom's magical abilities grew unchecked. He was a lonely child, but he learned that he could control his loneliness by controlling others. As Tom grew older, his magical talent continued to evolve, and he eventually discovered the secret to immortality. This knowledge came to him when he unearthed the darkest aspects of magic, those that would allow him to split his soul through the use of Horcruxes. His quest for power wasn't just about ruling over others, it was a desperate attempt to cling to life itself. He feared death, and in that fear he chose to make himself immortal by any means necessary, even if it meant destroying his humanity in the process. It was this shift that made him unrecognizable from the boy who once lived in an orphanage. The films, unfortunately, do not do justice to this descent. While we see glimpses of his early attempts to gain control over people, the full scope of his transformation from boy to monster is omitted. In The Half-Blood Prince, the adult Voldemort is shown, but his backstory, his struggle with his identity, his longing for power, and the way he abandoned his humanity is only hinted at. The film version of Voldemort is a terrifying presence, but he seems to be a man driven by a singular need to conquer and destroy. The complexity of his transformation, however, is rooted in his fear of weakness and his inability to accept love, two elements that played crucial roles in his eventual undoing. The books, on the other hand, take their time revealing how Voldemort's inner turmoil led him to shed the last vestiges of his humanity. His inability to love was not just a personality flaw, it was a defense mechanism. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, we learn about Tom's early years in Slytherin, where he first began to cultivate his power and his beliefs about blood purity. He was a product of a broken home. His mother, Merope Gaunt, was a descendant of Salazar Slytherin and a woman who had suffered terribly at the hands of her own family. She had used a love potion to win the heart of Tom Riddle Sr., a muggle who had later abandoned her. Her death, alone and in poverty, served as a cruel confirmation of the powerlessness of love in Tom's eyes. From this, Tom developed a deep hatred for his mother and her love. He saw love as a weakness, something that could not protect him, and so he rejected it in every form. This rejection became the foundation for his later actions. His childhood experiences, combined with his immense magical abilities, shaped the young Tom Riddle into the person who would eventually become Voldemort. He began to see himself as someone superior, someone who was entitled to use magic to shape the world to his will. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, we see him manipulate others at Hogwarts, using his charm and charisma to gather followers. He called them Death Eaters and recruited students who shared his ideals about blood purity. It was during these years that he began to experiment with dark magic, and it was also when his moral compass began to disintegrate entirely. His ability to manipulate people and bend them to his will was only the beginning. As he continued down his path, he started to experiment with darker magic, those forces that would eventually make him a name feared by all. But Voldemort's journey was not just about gaining power, it was about erasing his humanity, step by step. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Dumbledore reveals that Voldemort had chosen to split his soul into Horcruxes as a means of ensuring his immortality. This act of creating Horcruxes marked the final severance of his connection to his own humanity. In the Half-Blood Prince, we learn that Voldemort had killed in cold blood to create the first Horcrux. With each murder, he slowly tore apart his soul until he was no longer a man at all. The fear of death that had once motivated him had ultimately led him to the point where he was no longer even capable of experiencing love or regret. Number 14. Why Voldemort cannot kill Harry. Voldemort's inability to kill Harry Potter is often perceived as merely a result of prophecy and fate. However, the books provide a deeper and more complex explanation, rooted in magic itself, intertwined destinies, and the very nature of the Dark Lord's return to power. This magic, though not immediately apparent in the films, creates a mystical bond between Harry and Voldemort that goes beyond the famous prophecy and reveals much about their inevitable confrontation. Voldemort's hatred for Harry is not just personal, nor is it solely due to the prediction of the prophecy. Their destinies are connected in ways that even Voldemort fails to comprehend until it is too late. When we first encounter Voldemort's hatred for Harry, it seems as though the Dark Lord's obsession is purely based on the prophecy that foretells the defeat of one by the other. In the films, this is suggested to be the sole reason for Voldemort's malice. Harry is the child who could bring about his end. However, the truth goes far deeper than a simple prediction. In J.K. Rowling's magical universe, there is an intricate web of connections that bind certain characters together. Voldemort's return and the act of creating Harry as a living weapon in the process plays a pivotal role in their connected fates. The essence of this connection begins with Harry's very creation. When Voldemort attempts to kill Harry as a baby, the curse he casts rebounds due to the sacrificial love Lily Potter has for her son. This act of love, unique in the wizarding world, acts as a protective charm that saves Harry. This magical protection remains embedded in Harry for years, serving as a shield against Voldemort's influence and making him impervious to Voldemort's immediate harm. However, it is not merely the rebounding curse that creates the magical bond between them. It is the deepening consequences of Voldemort's actions during his attempt to kill Harry that connect their destinies forever. During Voldemort's return to power in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, we learn that Harry is inadvertently made a part of Voldemort's existence. The ritual that brings Voldemort back to full power, the use of Harry's blood, ensures that Harry and Voldemort's destinies are entwined. The ritual calls for Harry's blood to be used to restore Voldemort's body, and when Voldemort drinks from Harry's veins, Harry's essence becomes part of him. The book explicitly states Voldemort's voice hissed in Harry's ear, "The potion you drank has made you mine." This magical exchange serves as more than a mere act of regaining strength. It is a literal merging of their fates, ensuring that Harry cannot be easily killed. Voldemort does not realize that this act, intended to weaken Harry, only further seals their connection, creating a powerful bond of life and death. At this point in the series, it becomes clear that the magical forces at play are far more intricate than Voldemort understands. Not only is Harry now physically tied to Voldemort by his blood, but he is also spiritually bound to him. This connection is emphasized in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, when Harry learns that Voldemort created Horcruxes to make himself immortal. Harry is not just a casualty of Voldemort's hatred, he has become an accidental Horcrux. A piece of Voldemort's soul resides within him. This revelation is one of the most significant moments in the series, as it reveals the depth of Voldemort's underestimation of the magic he's used. Voldemort has unknowingly tethered Harry's life to his own through the creation of this unintended Horcrux. This connection, born out of Voldemort's darkest magic, ensures that Harry cannot be fully separated from him until the soul fragment within him is destroyed. The implications of this connection are profound, for it means that Voldemort's power to kill Harry is severely limited. Not only does Harry possess the unique protection from his mother's love, but he also carries within him a portion of the very soul Voldemort is trying to preserve. In a twisted sense, Voldemort's immortality hinges on Harry's existence. It's not just that Harry must destroy Voldemort. In a way, Voldemort must also destroy part of himself in order to fully rid the world of Harry. This connection an accident born out of Voldemort's arrogance, binds their fates in ways he cannot comprehend. Every time Voldemort attempts to kill Harry, he is unknowingly attacking a part of his own soul. The connection between Harry and Voldemort is not just mystical, it is also psychological. As the series progresses, Harry begins to experience visions of Voldemort's thoughts and plans. This psychological bond allows Harry to perceive Voldemort's movements, his feelings, and even his manipulations of others. Voldemort, in his quest for ultimate power, has unknowingly created a direct link between his own mind and the mind of the very person he seeks to destroy. This connection is a constant source of struggle for Harry, who must learn to control it and use it to his advantage. In the Order of the Phoenix, Harry experiences painful headaches and disturbing visions as Voldemort's influence over him deepens, yet he also learns to fight back. This bond is a constant reminder that Harry is never truly free from Voldemort's grasp, but it also provides Harry with the means to eventually bring about his defeat. Number 15. Harry's forgotten attachment. In the world of Harry Potter, where bravery and sacrifice reign supreme, one of the most poignant and often overlooked themes is the secret burden that Harry Potter carries, the weight of lost relationships and unhealed emotional scars. Despite his extraordinary role in vanquishing Voldemort, Harry's personal life is filled with heartbreak and loss that he can never quite shake off. The films, despite their successes, chose to obscure some of the deeper emotional complexities of Harry's character, especially the profound attachments and the burdens of loss that defined much of his journey. In the books, these elements are explored with much more depth, but the cinematic adaptations glossed over much of this, leaving a vast emotional gap in the portrayal of Harry's character. The loss of his parents is the most profound loss Harry experiences, and it is a defining factor of his existence from the moment he was left with the scar on his forehead. While this is acknowledged in both the books and the films, the emotional impact of growing up without a family is only truly conveyed in the book's more introspective moments. Harry's sorrow and yearning for his parents are ever present, but it is not just the death of Lily and James Potter that haunts him. Throughout his life, he is faced with the devastating loss of people he comes to love, and he is forced to confront the idea that these individuals will never be part of his life again. One of the most significant losses that Harry endures is that of Sirius Black. Sirius was not only his godfather, but the closest thing to a parent figure Harry ever had after the death of his own. In many ways, Sirius's death becomes a turning point for Harry. It is not just the physical absence of Sirius that devastates him, but the loss of the hope and connection that Sirius represented. Before Sirius's death, Harry had finally found a kind of family, a link to his parents that gave him solace in the midst of the chaos of his life. The bond between Harry and Sirius, though forged in the fires of war and conflict, was one of trust and love. When the curse of fate strikes and Sirius is taken from him in the Department of Mysteries, Harry is left to grapple with the weight of his loss alone. There is no closure, no final words of comfort. The void left by Sirius's death is not something that Harry can fill or ignore. It haunts him in every battle he faces, in every moment he questions his path. But, perhaps more tragically, what the films fail to capture is how this loss of Sirius contributes to Harry's growing inability to connect with others. His grief makes him more isolated, more willing to push people away, and this only deepens his loneliness. He loves deeply, but he struggles to truly allow others to be close to him for fear of losing them as well. This is particularly evident in his relationship with Ron and Hermione. While Harry values their friendship above all else, and the trio's bond is integral to the plot, the films often gloss over the tensions that exist beneath the surface. In the books, Harry's frustration with his friends becomes more pronounced, especially during the events surrounding the Deathly Hallows. He feels a need to protect them, and this often results in him keeping them at arm's length, even though he knows deep down that he needs them more than ever. In the Deathly Hallows, Harry's emotional turmoil is laid bare as he is forced to confront the idea that he may have to face Voldemort alone. His mistrust of others, stemming from the loss of Sirius, is most evident when he refuses to allow Ron and Hermione to accompany him on his quest to destroy Horcruxes. He doesn't want them to be in danger, but more than that, he fears that they will be taken from him in the same way that Sirius was. This fear of loss is a constant shadow over Harry's ability to trust, and it makes him distant even to those who love him most. The films, while showing his determination, do not fully delve into the pain that comes with Harry's decision to push his friends away. The weight of this is not just in the actions, but in the silence that follows, a silence that speaks volumes about Harry's internal struggle. The relationship with Ginny Weasley also highlights Harry's difficulty in moving forward emotionally. Ginny, who has always been a part of Harry's life in some form, represents a sense of normalcy and hope, a chance for Harry to experience a love that isn't tainted by war and loss. However, even with Ginny, Harry finds it difficult to open up completely. His deep-seated fears, stemming from the pain of losing Sirius and other loved ones, manifest in his reluctance to allow their relationship to blossom. This tension is most noticeable during the time when Harry and Ginny are apart in The Half-Blood Prince. Harry's fear of losing Ginny, combined with his own internal conflict, creates a barrier between them. The films, with their focus on the grand battles and magical conflicts, fail to show how much of this relationship is actually shaped by Harry's past experiences of loss. Ginny, though fiercely independent and strong-willed, is not immune to the pain of Harry's emotional baggage. Number 16. Riddle's Cursed Book. One of the most mysterious objects in the Harry Potter universe is Tom Riddle's diary. While the films provide a glimpse into this sinister artifact, showing how Hermione and Ron encounter its dangerous powers, the books delve much deeper into its significance. In the films, we witness the diary as a mere tool used by the Dark Lord to manipulate Ginny Weasley, yet its true nature and history remain hidden from the viewer's eyes. The diary is far more than just a magical object. It is an extension of Tom Riddle's own soul, a fragment of his essence. Its purpose, however, is far more sinister than anything the movies ever revealed. What the films fail to show is the depth of the diary's dark power, how it was created, and how it allowed Riddle to continue existing, even after his body had perished. The diary, as we learn from the books, was crafted using dark magic, not just as a diary for Riddle's personal thoughts, but as a vessel to trap a portion of his soul. This was not merely a diary that held memories or emotions. It was a container for part of Riddle's life force. When he created it, he imbued it with a part of himself, his essence, making it a sort of portal through which he could exert his influence, even in his weakened form. The magic that went into the diary was deeply rooted in the darkest of arts, the kind of magic that can fracture the soul. And for Voldemort, this was a vital act in ensuring his immortality. While his body had been destroyed, the fragment of his soul remained locked inside the diary, waiting for an opportunity to return to the world. Riddle's ultimate goal in creating the diary was to maintain his power long after his apparent demise. The diary was his means of reaching out to the world, a way for him to connect with others, and more importantly, to manipulate them. Through it, he could exert his will over others, just as he did with Ginny Weasley. Ginny, a vulnerable and impressionable young girl, was the perfect target. She had been secretly carrying the diary, pouring out her most intimate thoughts into its pages, unaware of the sinister force that lay dormant within it. Riddle's influence over her grew as he fed her more and more dark thoughts slowly, driving her to do his bidding. The diary manipulated Ginny into opening the Chamber of Secrets and releasing the basilisk which terrorized Hogwarts. What is not made clear in the films is how the diary is much more than just a tool of manipulation. It is an extension of Riddle himself. He may not have had a physical form, but his soul lived on through the diary. This allowed him to speak directly to Ginny, to affect her thoughts, and even to take over her body when necessary. The films present Riddle as a mere apparition, a ghostly figure haunting the pages of the diary. But in the books, his presence is more substantial. He is not just a projection, he is a fully realized entity, capable of interaction with the physical world. This is a key difference that the films fail to capture. How? The diary, through the strength of dark magic, allowed Riddle to briefly escape his non-corporeal form and come into the world in a limited but still powerful way. The dark magic behind the diary is even more terrifying when we consider the full implications of what it represents. The diary is not just an object, it is a piece of Riddle's very soul. This explains why it has such a powerful, almost insidious grip over Ginny. The soul fragment that resides within it is capable of influencing the thoughts, desires, and actions of its owner. It's not just an inanimate object, but a living, breathing piece of evil. The diary is a physical manifestation of Riddle's will, and that is why it is so dangerous. It's not merely an artifact, it is a fragment of the Dark Lord himself, a piece of him that never truly died. It is this very fragment of Riddle's soul that makes the diary so significant in the broader story of Harry Potter. In the book Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, when Harry destroys the diary with a basilisk fang, it's not just a physical victory over an object, it's a symbolic triumph over Riddle's lingering influence. By destroying the diary, Harry is, in a way, obliterating one of the last remnants of Voldemort's existence. The diary, like the other Horcruxes, is not just an object to be disposed of. It is a key piece in the larger battle between Harry and Voldemort. Each Horcrux that Harry destroys brings him one step closer to defeating the Dark Lord for good. In the films, we are given only a limited view of the diary's power. We see its effect on Ginny and we see Harry's eventual destruction of it, but we never fully grasp the diary's true nature. We don't see the depths of the magic that allowed Riddle to continue living through it, nor do we understand the horror of the diary's creation. What the films omit is the diary's role in Voldemort's larger plan to conquer death. By embedding part of his soul in objects like the diary, Voldemort was attempting to create a form of immortality. The pieces of his soul scattered across the world in the form of Horcruxes were his attempt to defy the natural order of life and death, to transcend the limitations of his own human body. The diary is, therefore, not just a symbol of his evil, it's a symbol of his refusal to accept mortality. Another important detail that the films gloss over is the fact that Tom Riddle's diary was part of a larger pattern in Voldemort's obsession with creating Horcruxes. The diary is the first Horcrux we encounter in the series, and it sets the stage for the eventual revelation of Voldemort's full plan to immortalize himself. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, we learn that Voldemort created multiple Horcruxes, each one housing a fragment of his soul. The diary is the first piece, and its creation marks the beginning of Voldemort's descent into madness and his obsession with immortality. The idea of immortality through the splitting of the soul is both chilling and fascinating. In many ways, the diary represents Voldemort's deepest fear, the fear of death. He sought to escape it by any means necessary, even if that meant sacrificing his own humanity. In the process, he became less and less human, his soul fragmented and twisted by the dark magic he wielded. The creation of the diary was an early step in this transformation. It allowed him to maintain his influence over the world, even as he lost his ability to live as a human. The diary, then, is more than just a tool for manipulation. It's a manifestation of Voldemort's greatest desire to live forever. The films, while they capture the drama and the danger of the diary, miss the emotional and thematic depth that the books explore. The diary represents the loss of innocence, the corruption of the soul, and the lengths to which Voldemort was willing to go to achieve his goals. It is a symbol of his mastery over dark magic, but also a symbol of his inability to accept the natural course of life. By focusing solely on the plot points, the films miss the deeper emotional and psychological implications of the diary's existence. It is not just a tool for the story, it is a dark reflection of the mind of Tom Riddle and a key to understanding his descent into evil. In the end, the diary is destroyed, but the darkness it represented continues to haunt the wizarding world. Even though it no longer exists in its physical form, its influence lingers in the memory of those who encountered it. For Harry, destroying the diary was a victory, but it was also a reminder of the evil that Voldemort had wrought upon the world. The diary may have been destroyed, but the fear and the darkness it represented continue to live on, a shadow that will always be cast over the wizarding world as long as Voldemort's legacy persists. The diary, like all of Voldemort's Horcruxes, is a symbol of the corruption and the cost of seeking immortality at any cost. Number 17. Hermione's lost memory. There's an unforgettable moment in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows when Hermione Granger reveals a deeply personal sacrifice she made during the struggle against Voldemort and his followers. It is a memory lost to her, one that she wishes she could recover, yet it is forever gone. For a young witch whose intelligence, precision, and perfect recall are among her defining traits, this loss is not just emotional, it's an irreversible act of love and protection. In the book, Hermione confesses to Harry and Ron that she had to erase the memories of her parents, forgetting their very faces to keep them safe. This painful choice is one of the darkest sacrifices of the series, yet it is barely touched upon in the films. Hermione, known for her unwavering focus on her studies and her meticulous approach to problem-solving, has always been someone whose memory and intellect are unassailable. She is the one who remembers everything, the one who has the facts, the one who believes in the power of knowledge to solve even the most impossible of problems. Her academic prowess and ability to recall every detail have always made her indispensable to Harry and Ron. Yet despite her capabilities, Hermione's most difficult decision was one that no amount of intelligence could prepare her for. The moment she is forced to erase her parents' memories is not something Hermione shares lightly. It is a haunting memory that comes back to her in the darkest of moments. The choice to perform the spell is not just a magical one, it is a heartbreakingly human decision, one that requires her to sever her ties with everything she holds dear. In the book, she describes how she had to alter her parents' memories so that they would forget who she was, making them believe they had no child at all. She placed them in Australia, far from the dangers that Voldemort's Death Eaters would inevitably bring upon her family. The emotional weight of this act is immense. Hermione's parents are not just figures in her life, they are a symbol of everything she has worked for, everything that has shaped her. Her bond with her family, particularly her parents, has been a constant in her life. They are the source of her warmth, her values, and her love for knowledge. But when the stakes became life or death, she made the decision to sever all ties. She erased her own family from her memory and theirs in the hope that this would shield them from Voldemort's wrath. In Deathly Hallows, Hermione explains how this act of erasure was a necessity. She describes the pain of it, how she had to come to terms with the fact that her parents would never know her again. They would never be able to remember the moments that made them a family. It's a moment of profound loss that we rarely see in the films, yet it stands as one of the defining acts of selflessness in Hermione's journey. She has always been portrayed as a fierce protector of her loved ones, but this is a sacrifice that no one, not even Harry or Ron, could have fully comprehended. The film adaptation, in its pursuit of streamlining the narrative, omits this heartbreaking aspect of Hermione's journey, choosing instead to focus on the action and the thrills of the final battle. In doing so, it leaves behind one of the most poignant and emotional moments of the book. The sacrifice Hermione makes is not just the erasure of memories, it is the erasure of a part of herself. Her parents may no longer remember her, but she will forever carry the weight of that decision. She cannot undo the spell, and she cannot regain the years she had with them, the comfort of family. This loss doesn't just affect Hermione emotionally, it shapes her. It affects her in ways that go beyond the immediate terror of the war. It changes how she views the world, her role in the fight, and how much she is willing to sacrifice for the greater good. She has always been the one who believes in the power of knowledge, but this is a reminder that even knowledge cannot protect us from the heart-wrenching decisions that come with war. She, more than anyone, understands that the cost of this battle isn't just the loss of lives, but the loss of identity, of family, of everything that once made the world feel safe. When Hermione confesses this sacrifice to Harry and Ron, it becomes clear how deeply this loss runs. It is not just a fleeting moment of sadness, it is a permanent wound. Hermione, despite all her wisdom, despite all her strength, is left with the reality that the people who made her who she is have been erased from her life. This is not just a loss of memory, it is a loss of self. Her parents' faces, their voices, their love, gone. For someone who has always prided herself on her ability to remember everything, this loss is the most excruciating of all. The erasure of Hermione's parents also serves as a critical turning point in her relationship with Harry and Ron. Throughout the series, she has been their anchor, the one who keeps them grounded with her intellect and moral compass. Yet in this moment, Hermione reveals the true depth of her vulnerability, her humanity. She is not just the wise friend who always has the answers, she is someone who has paid a heavy price for the battle they are all fighting. She is, in many ways, as much a victim of the war as the people they are fighting to protect. Her loss, though personal, mirrors the larger loss felt by countless others in the wizarding world who must sacrifice everything to keep the darkness at bay. What makes Hermione's decision even more heartbreaking is that it is one of the few times in the series when we see her face an impossible choice with no good outcome. She cannot save her parents from Voldemort's wrath without losing them entirely. This is not a choice between right and wrong. It is a choice between two devastating alternatives. The fact that Hermione chooses the path that causes her the most pain is what makes her one of the most selfless and noble characters in the series. She does not make this decision lightly, and it changes her forever. The erasure of Hermione's memories of her parents also highlights the limits of magic. Despite all the power she possesses, magic cannot undo the emotional toll of such a sacrifice. Even a witch as powerful as Hermione cannot protect the things that matter most to her in a way that doesn't come at a cost. Magic may protect her parents, but it leaves her with an emptiness that no spell can fill. Her journey, therefore, is not just one of external battles and triumphs, but of internal struggles, of reconciling the person she was with the person she becomes in the aftermath of this heartbreaking decision. This secret, this lost memory, remains a heavy burden that Hermione carries alone for much of the story. It is one of the few things that she keeps to herself, not wanting to burden Harry or Ron with the true weight of her sacrifice. Yet in revealing it, she shows just how much she has given for the cause. Her sacrifice is not just a moment in the story. It is the essence of what the battle for the wizarding world truly costs. It is a reminder that victory is not just about defeating evil. It is about the sacrifices that those who fight against it must make, even at the cost of their own hearts. For Hermione, losing her parents, even if only in memory, is the ultimate sacrifice. She does not fight for glory or fame, but for the love and safety of those she holds dear. It is a decision that defines her journey and shapes her future. She may not have her parents' memory, but she will forever carry their love in her heart, a love that no spell can ever erase. Number 18, the magic of Sirius Tears. The death of Sirius Black in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix marks a pivotal moment in Harry's journey, one that extends far beyond the emotional devastation that is evident in the films. While the movies depict the scene as a moment of profound sorrow, they fail to capture the intricate magical resonance of Sirius's death, a magic that intertwines with Harry's own soul, shaping his future actions and thoughts. In the books, the emotional grief Harry experiences is not merely psychological, but is also magical in nature. It is as if the very essence of Sirius, his magical presence, lingers in the world, influencing Harry's life and his connection to the battle against Voldemort. After Sirius's death, Harry experiences something that can only be described as a magical aftershock. The pain he feels is not just a wound to his heart, it is something more profound. The magical link between Harry and Sirius is forged through their shared experiences, particularly during the years Harry spent with Sirius as his godfather. This bond was rooted not only in their shared love and trust, but also in the deep, magical connections that both wizards unknowingly nurtured over time. The grief Harry feels is, in essence, a magical reaction to the severing of that connection, and the lingering sensation of Sirius's presence is something that cannot be ignored. In the book, Harry's connection to Sirius is described as something that continues to influence him long after the tragic event. When he enters the Department of Mysteries to confront the Death Eaters, Harry briefly feels a flicker of Sirius's presence within him. This moment is both emotional and magical, as Harry is reminded of the person who was, at that point, like a father to him. He recalls the way Sirius spoke to him in their previous encounters, and he feels the deep loss that his death has caused. However, Harry does not simply feel this as an emotional loss. It is also a deep, magical void, one that will influence his path in ways that extend beyond just emotional grief. The magical influence of Sirius's death becomes even more poignant when we consider the significance of his soul, which is said to remain with Harry. In a way, this is not just about the impact of Sirius's passing on Harry's emotions, but also about the magical thread that binds their destinies. Harry's experiences with Sirius, as well as the memories he carries of him, are not merely mental recollections. They are magical imprints that shape Harry's journey. These magical imprints are what Harry carries with him throughout his battle with Voldemort. The magic that remains within him manifests as a kind of strength, a quiet determination that propels him forward despite the heart-wrenching pain of losing his godfather. The absence of this magical layer in the films is evident in the way the death of Sirius is portrayed. In the movie, Harry's anguish is shown through a sequence of tears and despair, but there is no magical connection or reflection of Sirius's soul continuing to exist within Harry. There is no hint of the spiritual and magical aftermath that occurs in the books, where Harry's grief is intimately tied to a magical bond that will guide him in his later encounters. This aspect of the story adds a layer of depth that the films, constrained by time and visual limitations, fail to capture. It is important to note that the idea of magical connections to the dead is not a new concept within the Harry Potter series. In fact, the entire premise of the Resurrection Stone in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows revolves around the idea of keeping loved ones close even after death. However, Sirius's death is not directly tied to the Resurrection Stone, yet the lingering feeling of his presence in Harry's life hints at a similar magical principle at work. Harry does not need the Resurrection Stone to feel the echo of Sirius's soul. It is as though their connection transcends even death itself. One of the most significant elements of this magical bond is the way Harry experiences moments of clarity during his battles, moments where he feels Sirius's guiding presence. In one such instance, when Harry is in the midst of fighting the Death Eaters, he hears a voice inside his head, one that seems to be both Sirius's and his own. This voice is a reminder of the trust and love that Sirius had for him, but it is also a powerful manifestation of the magical connection that still exists between them. The fact that this connection is magical in nature rather than purely psychological is significant because it shows that Sirius's death is not a final severing of their bond. Instead, it is a transformation of that bond into something more abstract, something that can still influence Harry's actions and decisions. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Harry's magical journey becomes increasingly intertwined with the past, and his connection to Sirius remains a driving force in his development. This magical presence that Harry feels is not just an emotional crutch, it is a source of strength, guiding him even as he faces the darkest moments of his life. In the film adaptations, however, the depth of this magical bond is lost, as the films emphasize the emotional weight of Sirius's death over the more subtle and complex magical impact it has on Harry's soul. As Harry progresses through the final stages of the war with Voldemort, it becomes increasingly clear that Sirius's death was not just a personal tragedy, but a turning point in Harry's own magical evolution. His grief, while rooted in loss, also becomes a powerful motivator that drives him forward. The death of Sirius is an emotional wound, but it is also the spark of a magical force that Harry learns to channel. His connection to Sirius remains with him, even as he faces Voldemort, and it provides him with the strength to carry on. The magic of Sirius's death can also be seen in the way Harry's character evolves. In the Deathly Hallows, as Harry is preparing for the ultimate sacrifice, he reflects on the many people who have influenced his life, including Sirius. His memories of Sirius are not just emotional but magical. They are imbued with a deep sense of power that he taps into as he faces his destiny. The bond that Harry shares with Sirius is not merely one of love and affection. It is a magical thread that continues to guide him in ways that transcend the physical realm. This is a concept that is fully explored in the books but is barely touched upon in the films. The magical bond between Harry and Sirius is one of the most poignant and underexplored elements of the Harry Potter series. It is a thread that connects Harry not only to his godfather, but also to the larger magical world. It is this connection that allows Harry to draw strength from the memory of Sirius, even in the darkest moments. The films, while powerful in their portrayal of grief and loss, miss the deeper magical significance of Sirius's death. The books, however, use his passing to explore the complexities of magic, love, and loss in ways that make Harry's journey all the more profound. Ultimately, the absence of this magical layer in the films leaves a gap in understanding the true depth of Harry's emotional and magical growth. Sirius's death is not simply the loss of a beloved figure, it is a transformative event that shapes Harry's magical abilities, his strength, and his ability to confront the darkness of the world. The magical bond that Harry shares with Sirius is not something that can be easily dismissed. It is an essential part of his story, one that gives him the power to overcome the greatest challenges of his life. The films, though visually stunning, fail to fully capture the complexity of this magical bond, leaving fans of the books to cherish the deeper, more intricate narrative that unfolds within the pages of J.K. Rowling's masterpiece. Number 19. Dumbledore's Collection. The secret of Harry Potter's story lies not just in the battle between good and evil, but also in the hidden world of magical artifacts and dark relics, carefully collected by Albus Dumbledore. As one of the most revered and complex characters in the series, Dumbledore is often seen as the guiding force for Harry and his friends, always a step ahead, yet there is much about his life and his work that is shrouded in mystery. One of the most enigmatic aspects of Dumbledore's legacy, which is barely touched upon in the films, is his secret collection of powerful magical objects. These items, accumulated over decades of research, served a crucial role in the fight against Voldemort, though their deeper significance and the consequences of their use are often overlooked. In the books, Dumbledore's fascination with magical artifacts is not merely academic, it is personal and driven by a complex moral code. He wasn't just a collector of rare and powerful objects for the sake of knowledge. He understood the dangers they posed and the delicate balance of power they carried. Each piece in his collection had its own history. Each one had been chosen with purpose, whether for protection, investigation, or destruction. These artifacts were integral to his strategy in the war against dark magic, yet their stories were only hinted at in the films, leaving much to the imagination of the readers. One of the most significant items in Dumbledore's collection was the cursed ring that had belonged to Marvolo Gaunt, Voldemort's maternal grandfather. This ring, which contained a part of Voldemort's soul as one of his Horcruxes, was one of the most dangerous objects in Dumbledore's possession. It is said that Dumbledore had long known of the Horcruxes, though he never shared this knowledge with others until it became absolutely necessary. The ring's curse was powerful, and when Dumbledore attempted to wear it, it left him gravely injured, a wound that would eventually lead to his death. The film, though, barely touches on the significance of the ring or the complex nature of Dumbledore's research into Voldemort's soul and how it could be destroyed. His willingness to sacrifice his own well-being to study and understand the dark magic behind the Horcruxes exemplified his dedication, but also his tragic flaw, a belief that he could outwit even the most dangerous of forces without paying a price. Another artifact that played a significant role in Dumbledore's collection was the Sword of Gryffindor, a symbol of bravery and strength. This sword had been passed down through generations, and when Harry used it to destroy one of Voldemort's Horcruxes, it was revealed that the sword had absorbed the venom from the basilisk Harry had slain in the Chamber of Secrets, making it even more powerful. Dumbledore, aware of the sword's unique properties, had kept it in his collection not only as a relic of Hogwarts, but also as a weapon that could be used against the dark forces he knew would rise again. The sword was imbued with its own form of magic, an almost sentient understanding of when it was needed most. Yet this piece of his collection was also shrouded in mystery. How did Dumbledore know the sword would be necessary? And why was he so certain that it would find its way to Harry? The films do little to explain the deeper implications of this magical object, and its connection to Dumbledore's larger strategy against Voldemort remains largely unexplored. There is also the matter of the mysterious locket, another Horcrux of Voldemort's, that Dumbledore had known about for many years. The locket had been passed down through Salazar Slytherin's descendants, and its dark magic had been cloaked in layers of deception. It was Dumbledore who had identified it as a Horcrux and had made it one of his primary targets for destruction. He entrusted Harry and his friends with the task of retrieving the locket from its hidden location, knowing that the challenge would be perilous and fraught with danger. The film portrays this quest as a simple mission, but in reality it was a calculated step in Dumbledore's larger plan to eliminate Voldemort's immortality. The locket, much like the ring, was not just an object to be destroyed, but a key to understanding the depths of Voldemort's evil. By seeking these artifacts, Dumbledore was laying the foundation for the final battle, one that would demand sacrifice, trust, and the willingness to face the darkest corners of magic. The films also overlook the broader significance of Dumbledore's role in preserving the knowledge of these artifacts. He wasn't just a collector, he was a protector of dangerous knowledge, one who understood that some things, though powerful, were too dangerous to be left in the open. His study of these relics was not without caution. He kept them hidden, knowing that others might misuse them, and that even the most well-intentioned wizard could be tempted by the power they represented. This is why Dumbledore's death, which occurred just as he was on the cusp of discovering more about Voldemort's Horcruxes, was so tragic. The responsibility of carrying on his work fell to Harry, who had to take up the mantle of destroying these dark objects without fully understanding the magnitude of the task before him. In the books, Dumbledore's struggle with these artifacts is not merely physical, but philosophical. He constantly grappled with the temptation of power and the danger of obsession. This struggle is particularly evident in his relationship with the Deathly Hallows, which he discovered and coveted during his youth. While he eventually realized the danger of seeking such power, his early obsession with the Hallows led to the death of his sister, Oriana. 8. Tragedy that haunted him for the rest of his life. This event shaped his views on power, control, and the ethics of using magic. He came to believe that while some objects, like the Hallows, could be used for good, their very existence posed a risk. Dumbledore's collection was not just a collection of magical objects, but a reflection of his own internal battle, one that he never fully shared with others, not even Harry. The films, by focusing primarily on action and spectacle, leave little room to explore these deeper themes. The collection of artifacts becomes more of a plot device than a profound symbol of Dumbledore's personal journey. In the books, however, these objects represent his lifelong commitment to understanding and combating dark magic, even at the cost of his own life. He never sought to wield these items for personal gain, but rather as tools to protect the wizarding world from Voldemort's malevolent influence. The objects were part of a larger plan, a plan that Harry, by inheriting Dumbledore's knowledge and trust, would continue after his mentor's death. Dumbledore's collection of magical artifacts also highlights his remarkable foresight. While Voldemort was focused on gaining power and immortality, Dumbledore was focused on understanding and dismantling the very forces that Voldemort sought to control. He knew that Voldemort's obsession with immortality and his desire for power over life and death were rooted in fear and weakness. In contrast, Dumbledore's approach was grounded in love, sacrifice, and the belief that true power lies in understanding one's mortality. This philosophical divide between the two wizards became one of the central themes of the series, and it is through Dumbledore's collection of magical artifacts that his true wisdom is revealed. His work was not just about collecting objects. It was about understanding the nature of magic, the dangers of obsession, and the importance of love and sacrifice in the fight against darkness. As Harry grows into his role as the final hope against Voldemort, he begins to understand the deeper significance of Dumbledore's legacy. The artifacts, the knowledge, and the sacrifices are not just part of Dumbledore's personal history. They are part of a larger story, one that will ultimately lead to Voldemort's defeat. Through his journey, Harry learns not only the power of magic, but also the importance of the choices one makes and the consequences of those choices. It is through the artifacts that Dumbledore left behind that Harry is able to continue the fight, ultimately defeating Voldemort not through power, but through the understanding and love that Dumbledore had always believed were the keys to true victory. The secret of Dumbledore's collection, then, is not just in the objects themselves, but in the lessons they impart, that magic is a tool, not an end, and that the battle between good and evil is ultimately won through the choices we make. Number 20. What happened to Fred? Fred Weasley's death in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows was a moment that shocked fans and left a lingering void in the hearts of readers. Yet the film adaptation, while presenting his tragic end, glossed over the emotional and psychological depth of this loss. In the books, however, Fred's death is not just another casualty in the war against Voldemort. It's the breaking of something irreplaceable. It's the end of a partnership that had been a cornerstone of the Weasley family, and the repercussions of that loss ripple through the remaining characters, especially George, Fred's twin brother. The Weasley twins, Fred and George, had always been inseparable. From a young age, they shared a bond that went beyond mere sibling rivalry or camaraderie. They were partners in every sense of the word, whether it was causing mischief at Hogwarts or later building a successful business, Weasley's Wizard Wheezes. Their relationship was one of shared dreams, mutual support, and an unspoken understanding that made them an unstoppable force. Together they brought joy and laughter to a world at war, and their store became a symbol of defiance against the dark forces that threatened to swallow the wizarding world. They were a duo, two halves of a whole, and this made Fred's death in the Battle of Hogwarts all the more devastating. When Fred dies, the world of the Weasley family is irrevocably changed. The loss is more than just the death of a character, it's the collapse of a shared vision, a future that was supposed to include both twins side by side forever. For George, the impact is immediate and profound. The one person who had always been there, the one who had helped him shape his dreams, is suddenly gone. Fred's death is not just the end of a life, it's the end of a partnership, a dream, and a way of life that George had never imagined living without. The books show George's struggle to cope with his loss in a way the films never truly capture. His sorrow is deep, palpable, and isolating. In the aftermath of Fred's death, George is left to navigate life without the person who had always been by his side. It's not just the absence of his twin that George must contend with, it's the overwhelming loneliness that follows. George, once a lively and mischievous spirit, becomes quieter, withdrawn, and deeply melancholic. His once bright eyes now hold a sadness that reflects the void left behind by Fred. The joy and laughter that Fred and George once shared are now distant echoes, and George's path forward is clouded with grief. One of the most poignant aspects of George's grief is the way it affects his work. Fred and George's store, Weasley's Wizard Wheezes, was their pride and joy. It was the culmination of years of planning, hard work, and an unbreakable partnership. With Fred's death, George is faced with the daunting task of continuing their business alone. The shop, once a symbol of their shared vision, now feels hollow and incomplete without Fred by his side. The sparkle that once infused their pranks and inventions begins to fade, and George is left struggling to maintain the business that was once the heart of his dreams. The loss is not just personal, it's professional. Fred's absence creates a gap that George can never fill, not only as a brother but as a partner in their shared enterprise. The emotional weight of Fred's death weighs heavily on George's interactions with others, particularly his family. In the aftermath of the Battle of Hogwarts, George is not only mourning his twin but also grappling with the expectations placed on him by the rest of the Weasley family. They look to him for strength, for leadership, yet George feels utterly incapable of providing either. He is lost in his grief, unsure of how to carry on without Fred's presence to guide him. The dynamic within the Weasley family shifts as they try to support George, but they are all affected by the absence of Fred in different ways. The joyful, close-knit family that had once been defined by laughter and togetherness now feels fractured, unable to heal from the deep wound left by Fred's death. In the years that follow, George does manage to continue the business, but the emotional scars are visible. The films do not explore this aspect of his character in depth. They present George as simply moving on, but the reality in the books is far more complex. George's resilience is not a simple matter of putting one foot in front of the other. Instead, it's a quiet, painful process of learning to live with loss, of finding new purpose in a world that no longer makes sense. His grief is not something that can be easily overcome. It is something that he carries with him, forever intertwined with his identity. Throughout this journey, George's relationship with his family becomes even more crucial. His siblings, particularly Ron, stand by him, offering the support that he desperately needs. Ron, who has also suffered the loss of a brother, is perhaps the only one who truly understands the depth of George's sorrow. Together they navigate the painful road of grief, and it's clear that their bond as brothers becomes even stronger in the wake of tragedy. The Weasley family, once united by the joy and mischief of Fred and George, now finds its strength in love, support, and resilience in the face of profound loss. In the end, George does find a way to honor Fred's memory. He marries Angelina Johnson, a former member of the Gryffindor Quidditch team, and they have children together. The continuation of the Weasley line, even in the face of tragedy, is a testament to George's resilience and the enduring love of the Weasley family. However, Fred's death remains a defining moment in George's life, a wound that never fully heals, but one that he learns to carry with him as he moves forward. Fred's death is not merely a plot point in the Harry Potter series. It's a symbol of the deep emotional costs of war and the profound impact that loss has on those left behind. While the films provide a brief glimpse of George's grief, the books offer a much more nuanced and heart-wrenching portrayal of his journey. The true weight of Fred's death is felt not just in the Weasley family's immediate reaction, but in the long-term effect it has on George, his business, and his future. It's a reminder that loss is not something that can be easily quantified or summed up in a few scenes. It's a lifelong process of learning to live with the absence of someone who was once an irreplaceable part of your world. Fred's death, though tragic, serves as a pivotal moment in the Harry Potter series, one that resonates deeply with fans and leaves a lasting impact on the Weasley family, particularly George. It's a story of grief, resilience, and the unbreakable bonds of family, and it's one that continues to haunt and inspire readers long after the final page is turned. Number 21, The Secret Life of Neville Longbottom. Neville Longbottom's journey is one of transformation and growth, a story of overcoming personal doubts and becoming one of the central heroes in the battle against Voldemort. However, in the films, much of his development is either glossed over or compressed into fleeting moments, leaving viewers unaware of the profound struggles he faced and the strength he ultimately uncovered within himself. In the books, Neville's evolution is not just a backdrop to Harry Potter's story, but a compelling tale of perseverance, courage, and self-realization. When Neville first enters the stage in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, he is presented as a shy, awkward boy who constantly struggles with schoolwork and magic. He is not as gifted as Hermione or as brave as Harry. His early struggles highlight his insecurities, and he seems to be an unlikely hero. His lack of confidence and failure to meet expectations lead him to doubt his worth. It is clear that Neville does not see himself as someone destined for greatness. Even the teachers at Hogwarts, while kind, do not seem to hold high expectations for him. Professor McGonagall, for instance, often chastises him for his clumsiness, while Professor Snape takes every opportunity to humiliate him. The young Neville is far from the brave and determined figure he will one day become. In contrast, Neville's journey in the books provides much more insight into his internal battle. For Neville, the world of magic is both a place of wonder and frustration. His lack of innate talent for magic only amplifies his feelings of inadequacy. Yet he never gives up. His determination, though quiet and often unnoticed, is relentless. His internal growth is slow, but it is steady. One of the most powerful aspects of Neville's story is his ability to push through fear and disappointment despite the odds. His transformation is not an overnight affair. Instead, it is a gradual unfolding of confidence and capability, built through perseverance and hard work. Neville's development is particularly evident in his relationship with his parents. Unlike Harry, who was raised in a relatively ordinary household, Neville's parents, Alice and Frank Longbottom, were once respected auras who were tortured into insanity by Bellatrix Lestrange. This tragedy shapes Neville's life in profound ways. In the books, Neville's deep-seated fear of failure is, in part, rooted in his desire to prove to his parents, who are unable to recognize his accomplishments, that he is worthy of their love and pride. Despite their condition, Neville visits them regularly, carrying the weight of their brokenness with him. His fear of failure is tied to his unspoken fear that he will never be able to live up to the heroic standards his parents had once set. This underlying emotional burden is only hinted at in the films, but is a crucial part of Neville's character arc in the books. Neville's growth also parallels his increased involvement in the fight against Voldemort. Throughout the series, he begins to find his place in the resistance against the Dark Lord, not just as a participant, but as a leader. His bravery, often overshadowed by Harry's, becomes more evident with each passing year. In Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Neville's commitment to Dumbledore's army is unwavering. He becomes one of the group's most skilled members, excelling in defense against the dark arts. His role in the DA is significant because it reflects his personal growth. At first, he is the student who hesitates to speak up or take charge, but by the time of the Battle of Hogwarts, Neville is a leader in his own right. The pivotal moment in Neville's story occurs when he destroys Nagini, Voldemort's final Horcrux. In the films, this moment feels somewhat anticlimactic, a quick and straightforward act of bravery that passes by too swiftly. In the books, however, this moment is the culmination of Neville's entire journey. By the time he kills Nagini, Neville has shed his previous self-doubt. He has faced his fears head-on, grown into his power, and discovered the depth of his own courage. It is no coincidence that Neville destroys the Horcrux at a moment when Voldemort's grip on power is at its peak. The symbolic weight of Neville's action cannot be overstated. He does not simply kill a snake, he strikes a blow at the heart of Voldemort's immortality, a feat that only someone who has overcome their own demons could accomplish. In this key moment, Neville's internal struggle is finally made external. Throughout the series, Neville's greatest enemy has always been his self-doubt. But when he faces Voldemort's final Horcrux, he is no longer the unsure boy who first arrived at Hogwarts. He is a young man who understands his own worth and is willing to sacrifice himself for the greater good. This is what makes Neville's victory so powerful. It is not just a physical triumph, but a symbolic one. He has become the hero he once thought himself incapable of being. The significance of Neville's actions at the Battle of Hogwarts is even clearer in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. During the battle, when Harry, Ron and Hermione are fighting alongside their fellow students and the Order, Neville leads the charge. He fights with a determination that proves he has fully embraced the role of a warrior. In the film, this moment is somewhat diminished as Neville's heroic actions are reduced to a brief sequence of him destroying the Horcrux and standing resolute. In the books, however, Neville's role in the final battle is far more prominent. He is one of the first to take up arms, standing with Harry and the others in the face of unimaginable danger. He is no longer the shy, uncertain student he once was. In fact, his leadership is crucial to the survival of many of his friends and allies. While Harry is often depicted as the central figure in the fight against Voldemort, Neville's contributions are no less important. In many ways, Neville represents the unsung hero, the person who doesn't always receive the credit they deserve, but whose actions are ultimately crucial to the success of the greater cause. His journey from insecure student to courageous leader is a testament to the power of self-belief and determination. In the end, Neville's true strength is revealed not in his magical abilities, but in his courage to act, even when faced with overwhelming odds. One of the most overlooked aspects of Neville's character is his connection to the theme of bravery. Throughout the series, bravery is often depicted as a quality that belongs to the Gryffindors, particularly Harry. However, Neville's bravery is different. It is not the flash of heroism that defines him, but the quiet, persistent courage that grows over time. Neville's bravery is not loud or boastful. It is the kind of bravery that persists in the face of failure, rejection, and pain. His bravery is the bravery of someone who refuses to let fear control them, and this is what makes him such an inspiring character. As the series progresses, Neville begins to embody the true spirit of Gryffindor. He is not just brave in battle, but in life. He becomes a model of what it means to overcome adversity and grow into one's true potential. And while the films may not fully capture this, the books provide a richer, more nuanced portrait of Neville Longbottom, a character whose bravery is as vital to the success of the fight against Voldemort as any other. In the end, Neville's story is one of quiet triumph. It is a reminder that heroes are not always the ones who stand in the spotlight. Sometimes the greatest victories come from those who have fought the hardest battles within themselves. Neville Longbottom may not have been the hero everyone expected, but he was the hero they needed. Number 22. The mystery of the resurrection ritual. The ritual of Voldemort's return in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire stands as one of the most pivotal, yet enigmatic moments in the series. When Voldemort is resurrected from the grave, the shockwave of his return sweeps across the wizarding world, shaking the very foundations of the magical community. To the casual observer, the ritual might seem like an intense and terrifying spectacle, but its full significance lies much deeper in the realm of ancient and forbidden magic, woven with dark threads of sacrifice, fate, and powerful blood ties that extend beyond mere resurrection. In the film adaptation of The Goblet of Fire, the resurrection of Voldemort is shown in a fairly straightforward manner. His return occurs in the graveyard, surrounded by his loyal Death Eaters, who stand by as he performs a dark ritual using a cauldron filled with a mixture of blood, bones, and flesh. The ritual is dramatic and chilling, but the complexities of what is actually happening and the significance of each step are glossed over in favor of spectacle. However, in the books, J.K. Rowling delves much deeper into the ancient magic at play and the consequences it has for both Voldemort and Harry Potter. One key detail that is frequently overlooked is how central Harry's blood is to the entire event. The blood of a living person, especially one with magical significance, is a powerful tool in dark magic. When Voldemort uses Harry's blood to fuel his resurrection, he is not just seeking to restore his own life. The ritual that brings Voldemort back to life is far more than a simple resurrection. It is a binding of fates, a magical contract that intertwines the lives of both Harry and Voldemort. The blood of Harry, in particular, is a symbol of the power that Voldemort could never have fully attained through his previous methods of dark magic. This is made clear when the Dark Lord, with his pale, twisted form, proclaims, "I have to tell you, Harry, that I've waited a long time for this. Your blood. I am using your blood to make myself whole again." Yet the blood does not simply return Voldemort to his original form. By incorporating Harry's blood into his own, Voldemort inadvertently forges a connection that binds their destinies in a way that neither fully understands until much later. This bond is not just a magical tether, it is a chain that links their fates together in ways that Harry only begins to grasp as the story unfolds. Voldemort can no longer kill Harry with impunity despite his thirst for vengeance. The ritual has sealed their connection, and thus Harry is protected from the killing curse. The implications of the blood tie are not immediately apparent, even to Harry, who, in his confusion and fear, cannot fully comprehend the gravity of what has happened. Voldemort himself may not entirely understand the depth of the magic he has performed either. In the ritual, Harry's blood serves as a conduit for Voldemort's return, but also as a key to something much more dangerous, an irreversible link between their two lives. As Voldemort's power surges, a strange thing happens. Harry feels a sharp pain in his forehead, a physical manifestation of the connection they now share. This becomes a recurring theme throughout the series, as Harry's experiences become increasingly tied to Voldemort's own actions and thoughts. What is most remarkable, though, is how this magical bond not only affects their lives, but also foreshadows the eventual outcome of their battle. Every time Harry confronts Voldemort, the connection deepens, strengthening the dark magic that ties them together. It becomes clear that their fates are now inseparable. Harry is not simply a victim of Voldemort's wrath, but a part of the Dark Lord's twisted attempt to regain power, a living vessel that sustains and empowers him even as it marks him for death. The significance of this link becomes even clearer during the events of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, when Harry begins to experience vivid dreams that take him into Voldemort's mind. These visions are not merely random glimpses, they are a direct result of the blood magic from the ritual. Harry is able to see, feel, and experience the Dark Lord's thoughts and actions, and in doing so, the bond between them grows stronger. This connection, rooted in dark magic, is not something Voldemort can easily break or control, nor is it something Harry can escape from. As the series progresses, Harry's ability to resist the effects of this connection is tested. At one point, when Harry is forced to endure painful flashes of Voldemort's thoughts, it becomes apparent just how deep the bond runs. It is not merely an obstacle, it is a part of him, an extension of his very soul. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, this is brought to a head when Harry is able to use the power of love and friendship to weaken the dark force that Voldemort embodies. It is this very love, something Voldemort can never understand, that proves to be the ultimate weapon in breaking the cycle of death and resurrection that their bond represents. In the final moments of the battle between Harry and Voldemort, when Harry faces his death, the connection forged by the ritual becomes the means of Voldemort's ultimate undoing. In his final moments, Voldemort realizes that the curse he has spent so many years trying to perfect has come back to haunt him. The killing curse, meant to end Harry's life once and for all, fails. Instead, it rebounds on Voldemort himself, the very force that he sought to use to destroy Harry now turning back on its master. The blood that Voldemort took, believing it would make him invincible, becomes the very thing that seals his fate. It is a tragic irony, for all the power that Voldemort believed he had gained through his dark rituals. It is Harry's life and the magic of love that prove more powerful. The blood connection between them, which Voldemort saw as a means of gaining eternal life, ultimately becomes the means by which his life is snuffed out. The ritual, instead of elevating Voldemort to an immortal being, binds him to a mortal death, one that cannot be avoided or denied. The importance of this ritual and the blood tie it creates between Harry and Voldemort is a central theme in the series. It highlights the idea that no matter how powerful one may become, there are always forces, be they love, fate, or the consequences of one's actions, that cannot be controlled or defeated. The ritual of Voldemort's return is not merely a moment of dark magic, but a pivotal event that sets the stage for the final confrontation between good and evil. It serves as a reminder that the most dangerous forms of magic are not always those that are easily understood, but those that bind individuals together in ways that cannot be undone. In the end, the ritual that brought Voldemort back to life was not just about restoring his body, it was about forging a connection that would define the entire series. The consequences of that connection and the eventual breaking of it are what bring the story to its resolution. The bond forged in that graveyard, marked by blood and dark magic, becomes the final key to understanding the ultimate defeat of Voldemort and the triumph of love, friendship, and sacrifice. Number 23. Legilimency, the magic of the mind. In the wizarding world of Harry Potter, there are countless spells and magical abilities that defy the ordinary, but one of the most enigmatic and powerful is legilimency. This is the magic of reading minds, a rare skill that enables a witch or wizard to delve into the thoughts, emotions, and memories of another person. While the films have presented this spell with some depth, particularly through the character of Severus Snape, the books reveal far more intricate and nuanced aspects of legilimency. It is not simply a matter of reading someone's thoughts, it is a profound invasion of the mind that can manipulate and control consciousness itself, shaping how individuals perceive reality and ultimately how they act. Severus Snape, one of the most complex characters in the series, provides an excellent example of the skill and the power of legilimency. In Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Snape is tasked with teaching Harry to defend himself from the mental manipulations of Lord Voldemort, who has the ability to invade Harry's mind at will. This is no simple task, and Snape's methods are harsh. He forces Harry into a series of exercises that are not only physically taxing, but also mentally exhausting. Snape knows that Harry's mind is vulnerable, open to attack, and that the only way to defend it is through the mastery of legilimency. In their first lessons, Snape's approach is brutally direct. He attempts to enter Harry's mind, pushing through his defenses without mercy. Harry, untrained and emotionally vulnerable, struggles to resist. The sensation of someone else probing his thoughts is disturbing, and the more Snape pushes, the more Harry's discomfort grows. In the books, Snape's use of legilimency is not just about extracting information, it's a tool of control, one that can make even the strongest-willed individual feel helpless and exposed. He is not merely reading Harry's mind, but attempting to manipulate it, forcing Harry to experience the emotions of vulnerability and fear. The more Harry learns to block Snape's attempts, the more he begins to understand not just his own mind, but the depths of the emotions that he had been avoiding or suppressing. What makes legilimency so dangerous is its ability to do more than just read thoughts. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, we learn that Voldemort's use of legilimency goes far beyond the mere act of reading someone's mind. He uses it as a weapon, an instrument of control and manipulation. The Dark Lord does not simply know what his followers are thinking. He is able to plant ideas in their minds, shaping their thoughts to suit his desires. His power to manipulate minds is one of the reasons why his followers, the Death Eaters, are so utterly loyal to him. Through legilimency, he is able to impose his will on their consciousness, making them see things his way and turning their fear into obedience. But what is perhaps more disturbing is the way legilimency affects those who are subjected to it over long periods of time. Harry, despite his growing skill in blocking Snape's attempts, begins to realize that the more he learns about the art of legilimency, the more it changes him. His lessons are not just about defending himself from Voldemort, they are also about understanding his own mind and emotions, many of which he had never fully examined. The act of reading minds, it seems, has a transformative effect. It forces the practitioner to confront uncomfortable truths about themselves and others, blurring the line between what is real and what is perceived. Harry is not just learning to protect himself from Voldemort's attacks, he is learning how to control his own emotions, to examine the depths of his fears and desires, and to master the art of self-awareness. This self-awareness becomes especially important when Harry confronts the reality of his connection with Voldemort. As the books progress, it becomes increasingly clear that Harry's ability to resist Voldemort's influence is tied to his ability to control his own mind. Legilimency, in this sense, is not just a matter of protecting oneself from external forces. It is about learning to navigate the labyrinth of one's own emotions and thoughts. In moments of great stress or danger, Harry finds himself faced with visions from Voldemort's mind, images that seem to mirror his own fears and insecurities. These visions blur the lines between what is Harry's and what is Voldemort's, creating a sense of confusion that only the mastery of legilimency can begin to unravel. One of the most compelling aspects of legilimency is its connection to the deeper themes of identity and personal control. Throughout the series, Harry grapples with his sense of self. He is a young man who has lived through unimaginable hardships, and his identity is often shaped by the external forces around him. Legilimency, in its most invasive form, forces him to confront these forces head-on. It reveals not just the thoughts of others, but his own vulnerabilities, desires, and fears. The more he learns to block out Voldemort's influence, the more he learns to understand himself. It is an uncomfortable journey, one that challenges him to examine parts of his soul he would rather leave untouched. For example, during his lessons with Snape, Harry is forced to confront a particularly painful memory, one in which he felt betrayed by his friends. Snape's legilimency brings this memory to the surface, forcing Harry to relive the anger and hurt he had buried. In the process, Harry learns not only how to protect himself from external influences, but also how to manage the emotions that threaten to overwhelm him. Snape's cold, calculating nature makes him an ideal teacher for this difficult task, as he forces Harry to face the harsh realities of his own emotions. Through this, Harry learns to master not just legilimency but his own emotional control, which becomes crucial as he faces the greatest challenges of his life. But it is not just Harry who learns to master the art of legilimency. As the series progresses, we see that other characters, including Snape himself, have mastered this difficult skill for their own reasons. Snape's use of legilimency is particularly intriguing, as it reflects his complex loyalty to both sides of the war. He uses legilimency to protect Harry from Voldemort's influence, yet he also uses it as a tool of manipulation to shape the way Harry perceives certain events and people. This duality in Snape's character makes him one of the most fascinating figures in the series, as he is constantly walking the line between the forces of good and evil. In addition to its power to manipulate minds, legilimency also plays a significant role in the theme of trust. Harry, throughout his journey, is constantly forced to navigate the tricky terrain of trust and betrayal. His connection with Snape, a character who is both a mentor and an adversary, exemplifies this tension. The use of legilimency becomes a metaphor for the deeper emotional struggles that Harry faces. How much can he trust the people around him, and how much can he trust himself? Snape's ability to probe Harry's mind forces Harry to confront the uncomfortable truth that despite his best efforts, he cannot fully protect himself from the influence of others. This realization becomes even more significant when Harry learns of Snape's true loyalties and how much Snape's use of legilimency had shaped Harry's journey. Ultimately, legilimency represents a deeper understanding of the mind and its vulnerabilities. It is a tool that can be used for both good and evil, depending on the intentions of the one who wields it. In the world of Harry Potter, it serves as a powerful reminder of the complexity of human nature, how the thoughts, emotions, and memories we carry can shape our actions and our destinies. For Harry, learning to defend against legilimency is not just about protecting himself from Voldemort. It is about understanding himself, his emotions, and the forces that shape his life. In this way, legilimency is more than just a magical skill. It is a key to unlocking the mysteries of the human mind and ultimately the journey of self-discovery. Number 24, the silence of magical lore. The Ministry of Magic in J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series is portrayed in the films as a large, complex bureaucratic entity with all the trappings of government, quarrelsome politics, ambitious individuals, and sprawling departments. However, the deeper, more corrupt nature of the ministry, as revealed in the books, is often overlooked in the films. And this omission leaves a key part of the story untold. At the heart of the ministry's darker side is the political struggle that occurs within its walls, a struggle that extends far beyond simple inefficiency and bureaucracy. The films never fully capture the way the ministry's corruption serves to exacerbate the larger conflict between good and evil, nor the disturbing silence surrounding the truth of Voldemort's return. In Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, the Ministry of Magic is at odds with the growing evidence of Voldemort's return, not just ignoring it, but actively resisting its acceptance. Cornelius Fudge, the Minister for Magic at the time, is not merely delusional. He is politically motivated. His refusal to believe in the Dark Lord's return stems not from ignorance, but from a fear of losing control. If Voldemort's return were acknowledged, Fudge would lose his position, his authority, and the stability of his regime. This is why he chooses to publicly discredit Harry and Dumbledore, both of whom are unequivocally certain about the return of Voldemort. The truth about Voldemort is not simply denied, it is systematically suppressed by a ministry desperate to preserve its fragile status quo. The situation is much more complex than merely Fudge's pride. The book paints a broader picture of a government that has deeply corrupted itself. The ministry has become a tool for political maneuvering, serving the interests of those in power rather than the common good. This political maneuvering is particularly evident in the way the ministry turns a blind eye to the increasing danger of Voldemort's followers, the Death Eaters, who are allowed to operate freely, consolidating their power in the shadows. This is not just a matter of incompetence, it is an active decision to prioritize power over public safety. The ministry, in this sense, acts as an enabler of the very forces it claims to oppose. One of the most glaring examples of the ministry's corruption is its treatment of the press and freedom of speech. In the film, the Daily Prophet is shown as somewhat biased, but in the book, its role as a tool of the ministry's propaganda machine is far more pronounced. The ministry uses the paper to spread misinformation about Harry and his claims regarding Voldemort's return. When Fudge refuses to acknowledge the truth, he launches a smear campaign against Harry, portraying him as a liar and, worse, a dangerous troublemaker. This campaign goes beyond simple discrediting. It involves manipulating the public's perception through the control of the media, a tactic that undermines the very foundation of a free society. In doing so, the untold ministry attacks the concept of free speech and the right to tell the truth, especially when it is inconvenient to those in power. The campaign against Harry and Dumbledore is not just political, it has profound moral and societal consequences. The ministry, by silencing dissent and refusing to acknowledge the truth, helps perpetuate an atmosphere of fear and oppression. It is a society where truth is subordinated to power, and where people who speak out are branded as enemies. The ministry's refusal to acknowledge Voldemort's return is emblematic of a larger issue in the magical world, the silence around uncomfortable truths. As the ministry's propaganda machine works over time, ordinary witches and wizards become too scared to speak out, to believe in the reality of the threat, and to act against it. This corruption is most evident in the role of Dolores Umbridge, who represents the worst of the ministry's authoritarian tendencies. Appointed as Hogwarts' Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher in Order of the Phoenix, Umbridge is the ministry's enforcer, sent to undermine Dumbledore's authority and control what is taught at the school. Her arrival marks the beginning of a darker era at Hogwarts, one where the ministry's influence reaches its tendrils into the very heart of the school. Umbridge's actions demonstrate how deeply the ministry's corruption has penetrated society. She does not simply enforce laws, she imposes the ministry's will, twisting laws to suit her agenda and silencing those who dare to defy her. Her cruelty, her obsessive control, and her relentless pursuit of power show how far the ministry is willing to go to maintain its grip on power, even at the expense of the truth. Another key element of the ministry's corruption is its treatment of those who oppose the system. When Harry, Ron, and Hermione are involved in the formation of Dumbledore's army, they are forced to work in secret, away from the prying eyes of the ministry. The fact that a group of students must form an underground resistance movement just to learn how to defend themselves against dark magic speaks volumes about the ministry's stranglehold on knowledge and personal freedom. This secrecy is not a matter of choice, it is a necessity. Dumbledore's army operates in the shadows because the ministry, through its legal authority, would never allow such a group to exist in the open. The ministry's interference in Hogwarts' curriculum and its efforts to suppress the teaching of defense against the dark arts are just another example of how it actively works against the safety and well-being of its citizens. The Ministry's role in suppressing knowledge extends beyond Hogwarts. When it comes to the battle against Voldemort, the Ministry's lack of action becomes even more dangerous. The Ministry is shown as an institution so focused on self-preservation that it fails to take the necessary steps to fight the real enemy. The truth about Voldemort is out there, but the Ministry's refusal to acknowledge it weakens the collective ability of the wizarding world to resist. The refusal to act, to recognize the danger, is not just a political failure, it is a moral one. The Ministry's silence becomes complicity, and in doing so it further isolates itself from the people it is supposed to protect. Perhaps the most devastating consequence of the Ministry's actions is the toll it takes on Harry and those around him. Harry is not just fighting Voldemort. He is fighting a corrupt government that refuses to acknowledge the truth. This dual battle against both the Dark Lord and the Ministry is one of the most harrowing aspects of Harry's journey. It is not just about fighting for survival, it is about fighting for the right to speak the truth, to defend what is right, and to resist a corrupt system that seeks to silence dissent. The Ministry's actions against Harry and his friends are not just personal attacks, they are part of a larger struggle for the soul of the wizarding world. The Ministry's failure to act, its silence in the face of rising danger, represents a breakdown of governance itself. It shows how easily power can be corrupted and how fragile freedom can be when those in charge put their own interests above the well-being of their people. The films may show the Ministry as a faceless institution, but the books reveal the darker truth behind the magic, a truth that is deeply relevant to our own world. The Ministry of Magic is a cautionary tale of what happens when truth is ignored, when power is unchecked, and when silence becomes complicity in the face of evil. Number 25. The myth of the Mirror of Erised. In the world of Harry Potter, there are many magical objects that have profound significance, but none more hauntingly reflective than the Mirror of Erised. It is a mystical artifact that Harry first encounters in the Philosopher's Stone, and though it appears only briefly in the films, its impact on the story is far greater in the books. The Mirror of Erised is often remembered simply as the object that reveals one's deepest desires, but its true importance lies in what it represents for Harry and the lessons it offers him. When Harry gazes into the mirror, he is not just seeing an image of his parents, Lily and James Potter, who died when he was an infant. The mirror shows him something far deeper, a yearning for a connection with the family he never knew, a life he was denied. Harry's eyes reflect the love and warmth of a mother he can only dream of, and a father whose sacrifice defined his early years. This simple reflection, however, is not what it seems. In the mirror's glass, Harry does not see an echo of his past, but rather an illusion, a vision of what might have been, of what he longs for, but cannot have. In the book, we learn that the Mirror of Erised does not merely show the past or the future, but rather reflects the deepest, most hidden desires of the heart. What Harry sees in the mirror is a powerful symbol of his internal conflict. He is not just searching for the parents he lost, but also struggling to fill the void of loneliness that has marked his life. The mirror reveals to him a painful truth. No matter how much he wishes for it, the past cannot be reclaimed, and the family he dreams of will forever remain a part of his personal mythology, never to be touched in reality. This is where the true power of the mirror lies, not in what it shows, but in what it asks of the viewer. It is easy to imagine how a boy who has spent years yearning for parental love, who has endured the cruelty of the Dursleys, might be drawn into the mirror's false promise. But it is also here that the book delves deeper into the consequences of allowing the mirror to consume one's life. Dumbledore, in his wisdom, warns Harry that the mirror of Erised does not show the future, nor does it offer any path forward. It is an object that traps people in a never-ending cycle of longing and regret, keeping them forever anchored in a past that can never return. As Dumbledore tells Harry, it does not show you your future or your destiny, it shows only what the viewer thinks they want. In the Philosopher's Stone, when Harry returns to the mirror multiple times, his obsession grows. He cannot pull himself away from the image of his family, and each time he sees them, the desire grows stronger, the ache more profound. Yet with each passing moment, Harry realizes that his connection to this vision is fleeting. The mirror gives him a glimpse of something unattainable, only to pull it away. Once more, it is not a gift. It is a curse that draws him deeper into a world of fantasy where reality ceases to matter. What the books show us, which the films omit, is that Harry's journey toward maturity is inextricably linked to his ability to move past the illusion the mirror of Erised offers. When Dumbledore tells Harry to move on, the message is not merely about accepting the loss of his parents, but about learning to live in the present, to face his challenges without seeking refuge in the past. The mirror's allure lies in its power to make us believe that our deepest desires can be fulfilled if we just wish hard enough. But, as Harry learns, this only leads to sorrow and stagnation. The heart of the lesson lies in the understanding that one cannot live in longing forever. For Harry, the mirror becomes a metaphor for his own struggles with grief. The trauma of losing his parents so young leaves him vulnerable, and the mirror seems to offer a momentary escape from that pain. In the depths of the mirror, he can relive the moments he never had, the joy of being with his parents, of having a family who loved him. But it is an illusion. He cannot stay in that dream world, and he must learn to accept the harshness of reality. This is the first major step in Harry's emotional growth, understanding that while the past shapes who we are, it does not define who we can become. The mirror holds no power over his future unless he allows it to. In contrast, the films portray the mirror as a fleeting curiosity, something Harry encounters briefly but never fully understands. The filmmakers chose to simplify the story, focusing on the visual spectacle of Harry's reflection, but in doing so they missed the profound implications that the mirror's role plays in the book. For Harry, the mirror's image is not a comforting visit to the past, but a painful reminder of what he can never have. It is a metaphor for the impossible, an image that only reinforces his sense of loss. The Mirror of Erised, as described in the books, is not just a magical artifact, it is a psychological and emotional challenge that tests its viewers. It asks them to confront their deepest desires and to realize that these desires, however powerful, may lead them down a dangerous path. The tragedy of the mirror is that it traps its users in a state of perpetual yearning, forcing them to dwell on the impossible rather than move forward with their lives. What makes Harry's experience with the mirror so poignant is that it is a deeply personal struggle. He is a child who has lost everything and been forced to grow up too quickly, relying on his own strength to navigate a world that seems unkind and unforgiving. The Mirror of Erised presents him with a vision of a perfect world, a world where he is not alone, where love is unconditional, and where the past is still alive. But this vision cannot last, and Harry must come to terms with that. His journey is not about going back in time or reclaiming what he has lost, but about finding the strength to face the future without looking back. Dumbledore's advice to Harry to not waste your life dreaming is a stark reminder that dreams can be dangerous when they prevent us from living in the present. The mirror shows Harry what he wants, but it does not show him how to move forward. The truth lies not in the illusion, but in the ability to accept what cannot be changed and to build a new path, even when it feels impossible. This is the essence of the lesson Harry must learn. He cannot bring his parents back, but he can honor their memory by living a life that reflects the values they held dear. He must learn to let go of the past to make room for the future. The significance of the mirror of Erist in the books is a message that speaks to anyone who has ever faced loss, longing, or the weight of unmet desires. It teaches us that while it is natural to dream of a better past or a future we cannot reach, it is more important to embrace the present with all its imperfections and struggles. The mirror reflects not just our desires, but our need to move beyond them, to live a life where dreams do not rule us, but where we have the courage to face our reality, no matter how difficult it may be. In the end, the Mirror of Erist serves as a profound symbol in the Harry Potter series. It reminds us of the importance of living in the moment, of confronting our desires, and of finding the strength to move forward, even when the past haunts us. For Harry, the mirror becomes not a source of solace, but a catalyst for growth. A lesson he must learn if he is to truly understand his place in the world and the destiny that awaits him.